Well, hey everybody, this is Don from Wizard Tower Games. It is 8 o'clock. Today is December 26th, day after the big ho 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 Merry Christmas Day. I hope everybody who is in on the live, going to be watching the live and all that good stuff, has a or had a very good Christmas. In today, in video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the plans for 2024. I'm going to give a couple of updates, do just a general Q&A. So I'm going to real quickly get to the comments because the comments were really busy here. Big Vic, thanks for tuning in. Says, looks like I'm early to Don's show. I plan on being a bigger pain in and he's here. 2024 plans stealing someone's more plans stealing more game ideas from another game companies, going to prison for grifting. Never know. Still waiting for you to ask my questions last week to be answered. Why not talk about the payment made you by Luke Gygax? Okay. I'm going to real quickly address Luke Gygax's secret payments to me and many others. Luke, if you're watching this, I respect you as a creator, but I'm still waiting for my check, man. I have not got my checks yet. I'm going to talk about this real briefly. I'm going to say something about this. This is a conspiracy theory that has been floating around by certain people for the last couple of years about Luke Gygax, Wizards of the Coast, and certain creators who have been outspoken against a certain company. The very notion of it's silly. The very notion of it is just, as my grandfather used to say, boy, that's batshit crazy kind of stuff. Quote unquote from my grandpa. You know what? I don't know Luke very well. I know Luke from online. I know Luke from reputation. I know Luke from his military service and what he has talked about it. Retired lieutenant colonel, and I know Luke by the honorable way that he is bringing his dad's legacy on. And I do not think Luke Gygax would do that. And Luke Gygax is not going to do that. WotC's not going to do it. So quit sucking on your own Kool-Aid. And Big Vic, your game is not funding on Kickstarter. Okay. You know what? Hold on a minute. I'm going to real quickly, let's get rid of this piece of shit real quick while I'm at it. 1 second. And he is gone. Well, Just Dude is never going to be able to comment on my page again. So you're going to create a new account. So let's get rid of that. Very true, Vic. And Big Vic, Garen, teachable funds for yeah. You know what, Vic? Don't feed into him, man. He wants your reaction. That's all he wants, man. He wants you mad. He wants you upset. You know. But I will give your comments air because they're comments on my video. I give his. Just going through it. You have to have functioning neurosynaptic pathways, Vic, in order to comment, and that's why I don't think he's commenting. Well, he's not going to be able to comment again. Let's see, just going to go down through here. RPG Grandma, thank you for tuning into my video. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Yes, I did have a Merry Christmas. Let's see. Oh, Big Vic had the flu. That's going around my wife's classrooms. Yeah, you know what? I looked at this actually about 20 minutes ago and he hadn't made any comments. So I was hoping to be able to start something for once with a little bit of peace and good karma. But RPG Grandma, I've started reading one of my Christmas gifts. Hamlet's Hit Points, definitely a new way to think about design. I've never heard of that book, RPG Grandma. Do me a favor, RPG Grandma. Would you go ahead and drop a link to the Amazon or wherever you got that, or the gift, you know, man, give some more information to me via PM. I would love to check it out. Dungeon Master Dave Con this year is giving us some. Yes, Big Vic is doing Dave Con, and I'm also going to be pushing. If anyone wants to go to Kickstarter, look up the a game called Cutthroats and Thieves. Look it up. Big Vic Kickstarter is on there. It is a good game. Help fund this thing. Let's help get this thing to the start. Let's prove people to be the liar that they are. And also, Big Vic runs Dave Con, and this year Professor Dungeon Master is going to be there, and he's going to be doing some cool seminars. I'm going to be there too. I cannot wait to go there. Oh, hello, RPG Grandma. Yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone, and Happy New Year to everybody else. You know, this is something I want to talk about, and I'm going to get into when we start talking about the new year after I get through all these comments. Thyatis, hope I'm doing your name correctly. Welcome to the show. Yeah, I know. He is annoying as hell. Let's see here. Merry Christmas. And then the final comment. Okay, my friends kept me having a drink since I sprained my ankle. It's all good. Very merry. Sprained ankles, the flu, and the bad karma kid, as I'm going to start referring to our friend who always comes into the live. All right, 2024. Kind of a recap, a little bit of bring about of an existing project right now that is pending called the Lost Adventures of Gary Con. Me and Tim is doing. The project's getting ready to ship here pretty soon. The reason why I was kind of delayed is number one, we wanted to make sure the editing was done properly, and also along with that, we added some stuff to the game, and that is. We added a couple of new classes that have never been played before. These are original game classes for your PCs, and by nature of the product, you're going to be able to play it with AD&D, BX Basic, or you're going to be able to play it with 5e, because that's basically what the Lost Adventures of Gary Con are. It caters to all different flavors of the game that you want to play. RPG Grandma says Hamlet's Hit Points by Robin D. Laws. I will look that up. All right, 2024. Regarding me and Tim Kask. Me and Tim Kask have several projects in the plans underway. I have them sitting on my desk right here. There's some goodies that have never been seen before, never been played before. Those are going to be developed and released. There is a special project called All's Not Well in Boscadell. That is a special project dear to Tim's heart. It involves mice. You can play mice and smaller little creatures. It's a real cool game product that we're going to be putting out, along with a lot of other really cool goodies by Tim Kask. Also, Zonk, the World of Zonk, which is an online game that I wanted to get up and going by December. The reason why it's not up and going, it's a computer online game you can play, is that I am hooking up with David Floor from Darklight Media, and me and David are going to be jointly putting this together. David has some real unique coding abilities. So instead of just being a game where you walk through it, sort of like Eye of the Beholder, and you're just basically walking room to room reading descriptions, like Eye of the Beholder, you're going to have like a stat box in the corner with your character picture and your name, and your hit points are going to go up and down depending on what you do. It's going to be much more interactive thanks to David's skills than I'm going to be able to make it. I'm very adept at making websites, and I'm good at PHP, CSS, and other coding like that, but I lack the skill set to really do some of the more intricate game-related back-end stuff, and David Floor is that's his jam. So Dave is helping out, and I will be doing, and I'm going to plug a game of Dave's. I'm not going to name it because I'll leave that to David, but I'm going to be doing a lot of artwork for one of David's upcoming games that he's going to be, or that he's in development right now. I saw a preliminary copy of it. I'll let David talk about it and break the news, but it is a kick-ass game product that David Floor is putting out that I'm going to be proudly involved in myself. We are also releasing a project called the Open Worlds role-playing game. It is a system-specific role-playing game of our creation. It's using a system called the Task Level system. Now, this game was completed back in 2013, and I initially published it under the name of the Alterverse Role Players game. It didn't sell at all because I really didn't push it very well, and I'm glad I didn't do that because it needed more playtesting. So I basically had 10 years of playtesting with it. Lots of changes have been made to it. Tim Kask is getting his paws into it now, and he's making suggestions on classes, class changes, and such. There are a lot of people that are getting into the nuts and bolts of this game. Tom Veralt of the Tabletop Tap Room has thrown out some suggestions, so I'm getting some really good feedback on it, and it is being released. It's basically going to be a 4-book set. You're going to have the 3 needed books. You're going to have the Game Master. This is something I want to ask opinions and comments here about. I was thinking about releasing it in a Game Master's book a player's handbook, basically a critter catalog, and then you have a world setting. I'm thinking about, and this is where I want everybody's opinion. I'm thinking about modifying it. And instead of doing a game master's book and a player's handbook, I'm thinking about taking it and putting it into one book as a core rule setting. I really like to see in the comments, what do people think about that? Would you rather have it in two different books or in one book, like the player's content and the dungeon master's content? So the player's handbook content will be in the front and the game master's in the back, or vice versa. Or would you rather have it in two? I'd really like, again, to know everybody's opinions on that. We're actually going to put a poll up on our website because it's getting to the point now where we like to see, it's really starting to get to the point now where we're getting ready to get the book laid out. The world setting is a unique world setting that I created over many, many, many decades. We're talking about decades of gaming. It is a unique world setting that has a lot of content in it. And then also we are putting, so that's the world, hold on a second. Let's see here. Theta says, I prefer core rule books myself, players plus DM guide. However, you have to weigh whether or not it's going to cost too much and act as a bar for entry adoption if it's too big. Titus, the nice thing about the Open Worlds role-playing game is I like to call it's learning light. It's a very easy system to learn, but it is real broad in scope. And combined, if I take the player's handbook and I combine it with the game master's book, you're probably looking at less than, I'm going to guess, total content. You'd have one book then about 275 to 300 pages. So not that much. So I'm thinking maybe have them together. Do you guys think would be good? I mean, let's face it, if you're a player, you would only have to reference the players section, which would be in the front. If you are a game master, you'd have access to the back. RPG Grandma says, I'm open to either. The traditional division, I think, exists for prevention of too much players and, of course, pricing. And see, there's another thing we're talking about. We're talking about pricing. RPG Grandma brings up a good point. One of the reasons why I'm thinking about combining them is because actually it is more price conscious to put them together than it is to separate them. It would be less money to go ahead and put them together. Thais says 300 pages less is actually really good. The Pathfinder core rule book is over 600 pages. Now, see, this is where my theory of game design differs with a lot of other publishers. One of the problems that I have with like Wizards of the Coast and the way they have D&D set up, if you take a look at the Dungeon Master's Guide and Player's Handbook for Dungeons and Dragons as an example, they're pretty hefty, but they're hefty for a reason because they're art heavy. So like as an example, on one page, you'll have a piece of artwork that'll take up half the page and they're wrapping text around it. And I know why they do that. They want to add beef to the books. But if you stripped out the imagery or made the imagery smaller, then you'd have a book half the size as what they are. But also, the big thing with me when it comes to designing a game is I also refer to it as the Tolkien principle. Is if I can tell you how to do something or how to manipulate a rule or play a rule, and I can do it in a paragraph, why should I do it like some game companies do and drag it out and make it half a page? I try to keep things very condensed because as a player, I don't want to keep reading like on a rule that I'm reading this half page bit about. And I know damn well that if they just condense it down, they could have got it down to a paragraph or two. So with the Open Worlds, the rules are, I don't want to say simple, but what the rules are is they're to the point. I don't drag it out. I don't, add all this unnecessary verbiage to it and everything. He did a good point. Big Vic says players handbooks that are super cheap, $10 is optimal. The problem is this, is you are 100% correct, but I want my books hardcover. I don't want them soft cover. So that's going to increase the cost for me because you have to understand, when you're doing book plates for the covers, then you've got the wrap, they're labor intensive, and that's why the price goes up. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, what I want is this is it's like, I'll bring Tolkien up again. I love his work. I love his creativity. But for crimey's sakes, the guy takes a page and a half to describe a plant. I mean, it's just DM guide could be, yeah, they're on average between $39.99 and $49.99. That's the average price for a book now. What I would like to do is I would like to optimally, and don't hold my feet to the fire on this, but I would optimally like to see, if I did it in one book, one hardcover book, I would love to see the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook for less than $40. And that would be the equivalent of putting out a DMG and a PHB Player's Handbook for $20 a piece. And I think if it's hardcover, full color, which is what mine are going to be, $40 for the complete rules, everything you need to play that game is optimal. And there's another thing with my books, you don't really need the campaign setting. And the reason why is because in the front of the Player's Handbook is a section on the world, and it actually gives a good introduction to all the kingdoms and some of the more important things. So you truly have everything you need to play the game in the primary, at this point, 3 books, but might be 2 books now, which is what we're all talking about. Titus says, I prefer hardcover as well. I have small children. Well, it's not only that, but I think hardcover not only is more sturdier, it lasts longer when you're putting them inside of your backpack or carrying them around. It is a perception of better quality, a hardcover over a soft cover. And I have toyed with the idea of making them soft cover, because I'll be honest with you, if you take a book, let's just say it's 200 pages, and you make it full color soft cover versus full color hardcover, you're talking about you could take that soft cover and price it as low as $7 to $8 less than the hardcover, believe it or not. But hardcover is just, I don't know, just with me, I just like the hardcover, RPG Grandma, supplements of extra can always be created. I'm going to get to that in a minute. In fact, I'll get to that in 1 second, RPG Grandma. I'll read your other comment. Also says, well-written, concise core rules, organized well, not organized like Eldritch Wizardly supplement. I'm familiar with that, and I'm familiar with a few other books, and I don't want to bash other people's works, but I really think that, and this is just something as a consumer, as a player that I like, is when I'm looking at a rule book, I want to learn the rules, and I want to learn them in a logical order where I can sit down, turn to the page, and with my fellow players say, let's learn how to play this game, and we can sit down at the table and learn how to play it. And core rules, the core stuff, should be very minimal, I believe. And that's what it is with open worlds. And then Big Vic says, I'm of the opinion that the critter catalog should be inside the DMG. Well, that's the whole thing. Either the player's handbook I'm leaning towards will be combined with the player's hand or the DMG. I could do the critter catalog with the DMG, but I'll probably keep the critter catalog separate, and there's a reason for it, because there'll be other critter catalogs that are going to be released. Now, RPG Grandma talked about supplements, and that's where I'm going to get into something that I want to talk about. I announced it on Facebook. I got some shit for some people. I actually was contacted by a organization, not an organization, well, I guess they're organization. It's a group of people that represent some people in the African American community, and that is, I have announced that we're going to put out a African themed campaign world setting. It's going to be there's going to be 2 versions I'm putting out, one for open worlds and one for generic use. In fact, it might just be one, which is a generic use, because that way it would go good with the open worlds. And my idea is I would like to do little mini campaign world settings, like maybe 100 pages roughly, that follow real world history, like the African continent, the history of the African continent, which nobody ever talks about, nobody ever games around, and I think it's a fascinating area, but also other areas of our history and of the world. And I was contacted, and I was basically asked, how are you, a white guy, going to be able to act, appropriately develop a game that is based on African American history and culture? And my answer to that is there's a couple different ways. Is number one, I have actually reached out to they're a local group here in Battle Creek that had to do with Black history. Um, we have a in Battle Creek we have a monument to a lady who Sojourner Truth, who was part of the Underground Railroad, and I reached out to those folks and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm a game developer. I really want to develop some stuff with based on African culture," and they were like all over it. They're like, "Great idea. We'd love to be a part of it." So they're going to be involved in it. So I'm going to have people that have a real world fundamental understanding of African culture. They're involved in it. But yeah, I think that would just be something that's really cool. And so I'm going to be doing other books on other types of historical things, and they're all going to be able to be used with game systems. Thea says if you can get it under $40 for hardcover, that'd be awesome. I won't hold it to it, as they say, but I can have. Actually, no, I can tell you right now, the books are going to be probably in between $34.99 and $39.99 each. They're going to be under $40. That's a guaranteed. Exactly, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want to not only do African culture, but I also want to do other cultures that are done. But when they're done, the way I want to do it is I'm just not going to develop it. I want to get people involved that have a historical knowledge of it. I want people involved who can give accuracy to it, but also keep in mind it's a game. So, I'm not making them to cause problems or to be problematic with anybody. I'm doing them because I really I want to celebrate the cultures. And I think that African culture is a culture that is so rich and it has such depth to it that a lot of people just pass off. And I think that's unfair. Big Vic says, I loathe my players pull out a monster manual during gameplay. Yeah, well, thing is, when I'm a DM, I don't allow players to have a DMG or a PHB. Sorry, you're not allowed to have it. Most RPG Grandma says, most African Americans know nothing about African history and culture in Africa. That's true because, they're Americanized. They grew up in America. But the Sojourner Truth organization here in Battle Creek, they're really involved in it. And what I'm trying to do is I actually have the book named after an African goddess that's the mother of Africa. So that's what the setting is going to be called. And, I'm trying to find people who can give me real information, and when I'm done with it, have them involved with it to the point where they can look at it and they're comfortable with having their name a part of it. Big Vic, David Wesley made a game way back called The Source of the Nile. Yeah, Egyptian culture. But although Egypt was a part of Africa, I want to get more into the core Black Africa type culture is what I'm talking about. My other one that I'm thinking about doing is one based upon the Mesopotamian and Babylonian area of the world, getting more into the Islamic culture and that type of stuff. I have a love of Islam in the sense of the history of it. I think a lot of people associate Islam in a negative light because of terrorism, and sometimes it's like with Christianity, using religion as a basis for people's stupidity and ignorance. They don't even cook. Yes, that's true. They have some American workers about Kwanzaa. Africans don't do Kwanzaa. Dude made that up in America. Yeah, I'm not. I don't know who made up Kwanzaa. I really don't. I've seen in the last actually few days a few posts on Facebook about it. But the reason why I go ahead and I back off of it as far as talking about things like Kwanzaa and stuff is because I don't know enough about it. And I don't mind talking about hard subjects, but I don't know much about it. I really don't. Awesome on finding folks in the real Africa. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Just like when I go ahead and I start dealing in the Mesopotamian and the Babylonian cultures, I want to reach out to people who have real world understanding in the history of that. We have right around Michigan, we have in Battle Creek, Kellogg Community College, but we also have in Kalamazoo, which is about 30 miles away, we have Western Michigan University, who has an Islamic Studies Center. In Ann Arbor, which is about 75 miles away, we have the University of Michigan. We have in Lansing, which is about 50 miles away, Michigan State University. Each one of those universities have a large Islamic Studies Center and Middle Eastern Studies Center. So I'll be reaching out to them also to do it. The world is full of such vibrancy. And that's exactly true. And I want to bring a little bit into gaming. I think that it's great when people create fantasy worlds. I created my fantasy world. Okay. It's great because, anything is possible. But I think also you can bring in real world history, real world, like I'm going to do the African world setting, but you can put fantasy spins on it. Like in my game, I have a class called the Shaman, and I have some other classes I have to do with Africa and innately that are themed with African themes. I have, and that's kind of like a precursor that's getting ready to be brought into. So when you get the ability to buy these other world settings, you have a little bit of a basis in the core game. And, so that's basically a thing with open worlds that I'm doing. For those of you who've seen them online, novelty ID cards. I'm doing a bunch of them now. What you can be a game master, rules lawyer. You can buy these things. They're made of aircraft grade aluminum, full color, engraved on them, and they're a real cool product. Really cool. We're going to be making them on the website. I was going to do them this past weekend, but just got busy with Christmas and stuff, so I'm putting them in this week yet. So pretty much I'll put anything on them that you want. RPG Rama, she says, "Oh, I'm not against Kwanzaa. I just find it odd people think that you'll be uneducated, insensitive to know nothing about the place, culture, or subject themselves based on shallow things like skin color." You know what? I'm glad you bring that up because you're 100% right. Just because I am white does not mean I cannot have an interest in, let's just say, African culture. And it does not mean that my view will be skewed or in some way wrong. That's the whole purpose I'm hoping with the games that we're putting out, these little mini world settings, is I want people introduced to other cultures, but I want to make sure I'm involving individuals that that have real, not from a lack of, I want to use the word real, they have knowledge of it historically. So when I say, when you're reading the book and you go to the credits page and you see this person PhD involved in it and whatnot, these people are experts in the field, or they're professors, or they have real knowledge of it. And again, it's part of our history. And let's face it, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm a white guy. RPGs are full of white history and white-based history, the Vikings and the Nordics and the British history and, European history. There's nothing wrong with introducing Islamic culture, African or the Middle Eastern culture or African culture to it. The trick to it is to do it in a way that is not insulting. You're not being, how do I want to put this? You're not using common silly tropes. You make it, for lack of a better word, you make it historically accurate. Titus says, when doing the Mesopotamian Persians, should he be sure to really get into Zoroastrianism as well? It is a significant influence on Islam in the region while also providing some fictional conflict. I 100% agree with you. That's the whole purpose of these little mini world settings, is they're going to give basically players a primer on the culture. And then I'm going to break down conflicts, the culture, bits and pieces like that throughout these little mini world settings. And then you're going to have like a series of maps. And each world setting will then coincide with a page on the main website for the game, where there's going to be free downloadable content. There's going to be content that you can download, get more deeper into it. That's going to be for free. That hopefully that these people will prepare voluntarily. And I will tell you guys something right now. I have lived in the Middle East. When I was a very young man, my dad retired from the Army and took a job with Bell Helicopter, and we lived in Isfahan, Iran. We lived there from late 1974 to the mid 1977, late 77. right before everything went south. So, you know, when I was a very little boy before going to England, we lived in Isfahan, Iran, and I find the culture amazingly. It's an amazingly beautiful culture that has sadly been just horribly warped by the morons over there that use it as a weapon. RPG Grandma says historical research is very important in presenting cultural elements. Yes, and again, we're getting right back to the basics here. Of I'm doing this because what I want to make sure is when it's presented in a way that is it's presented in a way that is mindful of the culture, that is accurate, but it's also interesting. Because people are going to want to play in that culture, play in that setting, and I don't want to have the famous Oriental Adventures BS happen. Ain't going to happen with Wizard Tower Games. All right. Now, also along with the novelty ID cards, we're going to have a series called One Shots. The One Shot series is basically, it's a softcover book, and on one side of the page is a map, and on the other side of the page is basically a introduction to the map, and then there's going to be a couple of random tables for traps and monsters, and then on the bottom is the bad guy. And basically, they're designed for one-shot adventures. You want something you get done and played inside of 1 or 2 sessions. You can grab this book and pick something, and they're going to be themed. Like the first one coming out is going to be dungeons and dark places, so caves, caverns, tombs, dungeons, that type of thing. The next one is going to be abandoned, or not abandoned, excuse me, it's going to be things like castles and places like that. We're going to have one based on the cities and such. And all of our product is going to be based on our world setting. So they're called one shots, and again, they're just soft cover. They're going to contain roughly about 50 to 75 one-shot adventures. Looking for something quick, fast, easy, all presented, pre-stock, ready to go. Boom, do it, play it. Well, thank you, RPG Grandma. We're also going to be coming out with D20 Krieg. Now, D20 Krieg is a World War II armor combat game for tabletop. Right now, we are thinking of doing little 3D printed tanks and armor, because currently we have little chits, little cardboard chits that representing it. It's going to be a cost-based thing, because as everybody knows, 3D printing is not necessarily expensive to do anymore, but trying to get the molds done on them and all that, it might be kind of a pain. So basically, you choose a side and you do armor. It's basically armor to armor tank combat. Kind of goes back to my days of playing Stalingrad and all those other games I just loved as a kid. Then myself, and along with Tom Verrell Jr. with Tabletop Tap Room, we are going to be putting out a book, Murder Hobos. Basically, it's an everything goblin book. I'm talking about goblins and all of that. It's a real cool project. Tom, I don't see him in here, but if he was, I'm sure he'd comment on it. Also, Big Vic and myself. Vic right now has the Cutthroats and Thieves game that he's got a Kickstarter on. I have been involved in the development of it, and it's a card game, really cool. It's basically everyone for themselves. It's close to funding. Like I said, I'm going to be putting a link down below when I get the comments all done. If you can, go over, support the game, help Vic out. It's a really cool game. RPG Grandma says giant stompy robots. I have thought about a Mech Warrior based style tabletop game, and it's going to depend largely on how well D20 Krieg does. If D20 Krieg does well and it sells well, then actually I want to do a mech type game based on tabletop next. That'll use the same core rule set and cool rule mechanic. 2024 or 2023, I had a lot of plans for, and very early on, and I'm just gonna say this kind of like out loud. Very early on, I was hit with a pretty big setback by an individual with another game company who tried to get charges filed against me. And that became basically about a 3-month delay for me because all my focus was on dealing with that mess. Nothing came of it, of course, but it really put me back. So what I decided to do, I decided to take the remaining part of 2023, use it to finish up development on some games, and then early 2024, starting this January, you're going to start seeing product pumped out by us. We also have some other simple stuff we're putting out. Like for those of you who just like playing cards, we have a RPG fantasy game based set of playing cards, poker cards coming out that are really cool. Very unique the way they look. We also are coming out with, we're going to be offering publishing services. For those of you who have a game that you're thinking about coming out with, and or maybe you want to have it laid out and set up where you could sell it online or on DriveThru RPG, we're going to offer the services where we will do is we'll go ahead and we'll get it laid out for you. We can get people to do artwork for you. It will not be AI art. And we can get everything set up to where you're ready to print that and it be print ready, but also be PDF ready where you can set it up to go ahead and go online and sell it on DriveThru RPG. So there is that. We're also going to have a, and it's on our website. We basically are going to have a section designed for teachers. My wife is a teacher. I have seen firsthand how badly teachers are treated by companies that sell them basic materials that they need. They really price gouge them. And we're going to specialize in developmental kindergarten and kindergarten type products for teachers. There's a lot of forms and a lot of teaching aids and a lot of stuff like that that these teachers need. And I'm not joking. There are companies out there that charge $40, $50 for, a 5-page document. I mean, they're taking advantage of them because they know they got to have it. So the teaching aid or the teacher's aid part will be just basically forms and teaching aids for teachers that are very economical. Thaitis says it sounds awesome and may use those services. If you're talking about the publishing services, yeah, we'd appreciate it. Basically, we can put your manual together, lay it out, provide artwork. If you have artwork, we can put your artwork in there. We're initially not going to offer editing services, but I'm working on dealing with a couple people to maybe do editing for us. I already have someone who does editing for us, and I've talked to him about maybe passing work on to him, but he doesn't really want to do large works. He wants to keep it to small stuff. So we'll go ahead and we'll play that one by ear. RPG, oh yeah, the Proctor teachers. Yeah, it is. I'll give you an example. My wife teaches developmental kindergarten, and my wife wanted the set of blocks. We're talking about wood triangles, wood dowels, squares that kids play with. They want like $700-800 for a set. I told my wife, hell no, you're not doing it. I'll make them myself, but then her school's going to pick them up for her. That's what they do, these teachers. RPG Irma says, so weird when I point out how many aids used by self-made, but teachers went out. You know what? Teachers out there, parents really do not know how much teachers really do fund their classrooms. And along with that, how many things that a teacher uses, they like for developmental kindergarten, they use things like song cards, and there's forms depending whether or not they're a high school classroom, standard public school teacher, whether or not they teach Montessori. There's all kinds of bits and pieces that these teachers need. And yeah, it's crazy. And the young teachers are afraid to make stuff. Well, that's the thing, because you have to make it properly. You got to make sure that what you're making goes with, again, I mentioned earlier, you have standard core curriculum in Michigan as an example, but then you got teachers that teach a thing called high scope. You have things like GSRP is another form of a classroom type. Then you have Montessori. So you got to make sure what you're teaching, what you're presenting your children falls in line with what your school's curriculum is. And they are extremely overpriced. Exactly. But again, we have a lot of things planned also for coming up in 2024. A lot of things I'm not mentioning because they're just kind of like, are we going to be able to fit them in? We have several game modules coming out. We have a product called the Sewers of Darkholme. It's a role playing game module. We've got a lot of 5e products coming out. We have what we call campaign trackers. What a campaign tracker is, it's a booklet. And of all things, it's spiral bound. And the reason why it's spiral bound is so you can open it up and lay it flat. And basically in the very front is a really cool player character record sheet. And then throughout it is you tracking your character. And it's an active tracker throughout the entire life of your character, start to finish. They're really cool. It was developed using a teacher system for kids. It was developed using a teacher. Yeah, that's. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, but again, oh, here it is. That's what I missed one of your comments. For teachers using RPGs, I think reviewing the back of the box sharing might be useful. You know what? This is kind of interesting. One of the things that we are developing with the help of my wife, because my wife is a teacher with over almost 25 years experience, and my wife is Montessori certified. My wife is HighScope certified. So my wife is certified in all these various things. Is we're putting out a board game for kids. It's going to be called Pooh. And it's based on the world of Winnie the Pooh. And it is a board game, but it has role-playing game elements, and it's designed to get the little ones into playing and acting out, because one of the big things that kids do in developmental kindergarten, and it's a social thing, it's designed to get them, when you got little kids in developmental kindergarten, they're not used to other little kids, largely. They don't know how to interact with other children. They don't know how to play with other kids. So involving and letting kids interact is a big thing, and that's what the purpose of Pooh is. Reading and cognitive levels might be useful. Yes, again, that's exactly part of the reason why we're doing what they call DK, developmental kindergarten, and kindergartens, because as they progress through the year, they step up in different levels. It's like a lot of books in elementary school are called their level, they call it. And so basically what they are is they're designed for specific children's learning and cognitive levels as they grow through the year of DK, and then they get into kindergarten, then they get into first grade. It's a stepping system. So it's not like they learn everything at once in developmental kindergarten and then go to kindergarten. It's literally steps throughout the entire process. RPG Grandma, that's how to get along stuff. Yes, and that's the thing. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the products that we put out, people are getting real. I want people to get something real out of it. Like, again, the game Pooh. Pooh can be bought by parents who want to play with their kids, but Pooh is going to be really designed for the classroom. It's going to be designed to get it with a teacher's tool to get kids interacting with each other, playing with each other. And believe it or not, role playing is a big part of education with developmental kindergarten and kindergarten. Learning to play, learning to, it's like, when you go into a developmental kindergarten or a kindergarten classroom, you'll see that they have a lot of multicultural stuff. Like even the dolls you'll have dolls that are white and Hispanic and African American, because they want to expose the children to a variety of cultures and ways and different things. It's really cool the way they do it now. Thank you. But we have several. Also, we have several game modules. I mentioned Sewers of Darkholme. We're going to be doing some, like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of 5e content, but we're going to do a lot of the older OSR content too, stuff that's more AD&D compatible, things like that. We're trying to do a delicate balance. We know that 5e is the flavor now of role-playing gaming, D&D, but we also know that there's a lot of people that like some of the older stuff, for those like BECMI and BX and AD&D and second edition and 3.5 and such. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to, for lack of a better word, we're going to try to make a lot of people happy, just by getting a little bit of everything involved. But, we're also working with, we have another project that we're working on. We're working with Eric Tenkar and his wife, Rach, Eric Tenkar of Tenkar's Tavern. They have a Saturday night show called Gamers Health. Local 433 Gumby, greetings to you also. Gamers Health is basically Eric and Rach, and what they're doing is they talk about things that affect gaming, gamers, mental health, emotional health, physical health, that type of thing. And they are coming out with a website that I have developed. And basically, it is going to be a website that's kind of, the core purpose of it is to help gamers with their emotional health, mental health, and physical health. There's going to be a forum in there. There's a discussion forum, sort of like N-World, but it's going to be designed around helping fellow gamers. So, like as an example, if you want to make up a fake name and you want to join it, and you got some type of problem you want to discuss, you're using a fake name because it's personal. You don't want to get your business out there. You can get help from other players. There's going to be tools on there. There's going to be a tab where you can go in, and there's going to be things like hotlines and websites that are designed to help people. So we're part of that proudly. That is actually going to be discussed this Sunday, I believe. We're going to be on a special year's end Gamers Health with Eric and Rach and Tom and Tammy from Tabletop Tap Room, and a whole bunch of other people, I believe. And where they're going to premiere the site, talk about it, answer your questions, and do all that kind of stuff. How do you guys plan on moderating the forum? What we're going to do is we're going to have several people that are involved as moderators and admins. And already within the code, I'm in the middle of coding the forum, is I'm going to be having in there keywords are going to be blocked. So there's going to be certain things that people are not going to be able to say. Because the whole purpose of it is it's not to impinge free speech, but there's absolutely no reason for certain words to be used in a forum designed for helping people like that. So there's going to be things like keyword settings, people that want to volunteer. Once you're a member and you're contributing and we know who you are and you're a contributing member, if you want to be an admin, you'll reach out to the lead admin, Eric, or one of the other lead admins and say, I want to be an admin or a moderator. We'd have to have you part of it, that type of thing. So, and I know moderating a forum, especially when it gets up to, when you start getting a lot of members in there and a lot of activity during the day, it's going to take moderation. Definitely. So that'll be dealt with kind of like as it grows. So let's see. Today's not being heavy. So a lot of things happening in 2024. We're going to basically focus on the positive and the good. 2021 in through 2023 has been a challenging year in gaming. Wizards of the Coast has had several snafus, if you want to call it that. We know that there's been a lot of negative stuff in the news regarding a certain game company. We want to get away from that. Gaming is by and large a positive. It is a positive thing, not by and large. And sadly, sometimes negativity leaches into our community. We're always going to have people who are negatives, no matter what you do. But I think as a community, if we agree enough is enough, like in the very beginning, this anonymous person, the reason why they're using an anonymous YouTube account, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but to the person who's making these nasty comments in the very beginning here, and the same one who's went on my videos attacking my daughter and went on Tom Verl, Tabletop Taproom's videos attacking him and his wife and his daughter and such. There's a reason why that person's using a pseudonym, an alt account, is because they know what they're doing is shitty and they know what they're doing is bad and negative. And if you're not willing to come out like I am, I'm on camera right now. You see me, you see me in this room. You know who I am. I'm willing to stand by what I say. And, I'm willing to, when I make a mistake, I'm willing to apologize and own up to it. And I think that, the worst thing that we can do is really pay a lot of attention to those negative people. I ban him. He's gone. He'll open up another account. He's going to come back in here next week or whatnot. And I'll just ban that account. It only takes me a minute to ban an account. So got to start getting away from the negative people. And we have a community need to come together as a positive. Theta says, you don't want a forum of this nature be open to certain content. I'm glad you'll have moderators. Absolutely. And that's the thing. the whole purpose of what Eric and Rach are trying to do is something very positive. People who are having a crisis, maybe you're just having a bad night. We're going to offer you a chance to be able to reach out to people and talk to somebody. I recently posted a video about what it was like because this person attacked my daughter and me, and I got an email, and they basically made a comment saying that, did I do it happily? I had to turn my daughter's life support off. And I did a video where I talked about it. And I gave my phone number and I said, listen, you want to talk about this? You ever have a crisis, you have a problem, give me a call. I'm happy to talk to you. Because I know what it's like. And, it's not anything anybody wants to go through. And we all have bad days. And if you're having a bad day, I'd rather have you reach out to me and sit down and talk and get it out of your system than to do something rash that, you or sadly maybe your family will regret that you do. Move forward as possible. Absolutely, RPG Grandma. And then I was thinking of said troll and asked about moderation. No, and you're exactly right. It is exactly that said troll that we have to watch out for, because it's not just him. It's so many people like that are just mean and hateful, just to be mean and hateful. And it's in any group, in any forum. That's why in certain Facebook groups, you get declined if you do a membership. They want you. They want to make sure that you're real, that you're who you are, because sadly with the social media and it goes right back to the days of, anyone here remember the Yahoo chat rooms when you'd go in and go like Michigan gaming chat on Yahoo, and you'd go in there and chat and it'd be people in there talking and doing, well, a lot of times those people, they wanted to know what other groups you're in because they want to make sure you're a real person. Local 433 Gummy says, be a man of your word. His word is poo-poo. Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, and that's, I think, in essence, anything in life. Either you are a person of your word, you're a decent human being, or you're not. And, if you want to go ahead and attack dead kids or a man's wife, or you want to attack a person just to be mean, that tells me everything I need to know about you. There's nothing else needs to be said. And my new thing is I'm not going to engage them online. I used to. And I think I gave them too much attention. I'm just going to do like I did earlier. Block and move on with my day. Because what they want is they want you mad. They want you off your square. They want you pissed off. And they want you just getting so angry. Not going to make me mad no more. Unless you want to come face to face and talk to me publicly in live, then just go crawl back in your hole. I got better things to do with my day. RPG Grandma says, I think it's nuts to stalk people. It's weird to me. That's exactly what it's creepy. Why would you make an alt account? You're going to make an alt account so you can see their content. I'm on social media. That's the whole thing that blows my mind. I'm on social media. I use my real name. My real name is Donald Samora. I don't know why you got to make an account to stalk me. I mean, they make alt accounts, Grandma, or RPG Grandma, because it's not the fact that they're doing because they're doing it for a very specific reason. And it's because what they're doing online is shitty, and they know it's really shitty, and they know that they would be looked harshly even by their own families if they were seen doing it. So they create fake accounts so they can be a naughty little boy, or a naughty little girl. And that's how I refer to them, like children. You're being a really bad little boy. And that's why I joke around and say that, there's a certain person out there who runs a game company. He needs a binky is what he needs. He needs his keyboard taken away from him, timed out, and given his binky, no names mentioned. RPG Grant says, yeah, there are a lot of folks who those tendencies said it. Yep. And you know how we as a community can fight it. And this is how we all need to fight it. When you see it, you out it, and you walk away from it. Like on the N world, there's forums designed for the proper purposes to keep people in the loop. But other than that, walk away from it. It's like me. He sent me a really nasty email about my daughter. My daughter, I'll say this openly for everybody. My daughter passed away, Danielle. It was put on my shoulders to make the decision on whether or not my daughter was going to stay on life support. I made a decision as her father based on my daughter, what I know of my daughter. I made a tough decision, and that was I terminated my daughter's life support. I live with that decision every single day. He wants to weaponize it. He's not going to. Not going to happen. I don't wish that on anybody. I don't wish that on him. I don't wish that on. I mean, it tells me everything I need to know about you when you try to use that against me. So yeah, hell with him. He needs to be introduced to the Switch. Oh boy, does he ever! You know what? I remember my mom when your dad gets home, and I'll tell you what, I feared that. Now I was by far not abused by my parents. By far, I was not abused by my mom and dad. But I'll tell you what, I had a healthy respect for my mom and dad. And I did not talk to my mom and dad the way I see kids talking to their thing. Gumby said, you know what, local 433 Gumby, I'm going to say something here about that. You know what? I appreciate that. But let me tell you something about my decision with my daughter. I am at peace with it. And the reason why I'm at peace about my daughter is because I know my daughter. You know, my daughter, I refer to her as a Valkyrie because she was a fiercely independent young woman. She was a loyal mother. She was a good person, and I know my daughter would not have wanted just to lay there. That my daughter, just like me, I hope that if I was in that position, my daughter would stand at my foot of my bed and make the same damn decision that I made about her. And I was there. I was there. I didn't, I was there to the very end. I was there holding my daughter's right hand when her heart stopped and her breathing stopped. I was there when she was born, and I was there when she died. Yeah, parents don't want to see their kids die, but you're not going to weaponize it against me. And that's for the person. If you just relog back in and you're looking at, because I noticed my view count just went up by one. If this person thinks they're going to weaponize it against me, they're barking up the wrong tree. Especially that person. You know what I mean? RPG Grandma, hugs is a tough call, but it had to be done. It is anguish and only jerks weaponized real life hard calls that had to be made. Exactly, that's exactly what it is. You know, you know, I worked in EMS. I was a paramedic for several years. I worked for a rural ambulance service. I've seen a lot of people die. I know that death happens, and I know that decisions have to be made. Just like the purpose of this whole website for Gamers Health, it's designed for gamers to step in, but actually, and I'm not trying to speak for Eric and Rach, and I wish Eric Tenkar was here because maybe he could validate this, but I am sure anybody's welcome to step into there and talk and get help, because that's the whole purpose of it, is gamers helping gamers. We all have something in common. We're all human. We all love gaming. We all, and the whole purpose of the website is to remove the politics out of it, to remove the social politics out of it. There's people out there that I don't agree with who they voted for, or I don't agree with their political or social stances, but I can still game with them and be friends with them. Thias says, I'm glad you're at peace with the decision. I'm going to hope that as a parent, if I were ever faced with that decision, that I'd be able to be at peace as well. That's the whole point of it. You're not at peace at first, and you're very torn over it. But over time, you have to look at it as, and I said this in my video, that as parents, we're always in protection mode. We're always in that protective mode. When you're in that situation, when I call it standing at the foot of the bed, what you have to do is you have to go from protection mode and you have to go to compassion mode. You have to say, what is the compassionate thing to do here? You want to be selfish and keep the person on life support for what? So you can go visit them when they're on life support in a bed, which they don't want. So yeah, it's tough decisions, but tough decisions have to be made. And as a parent, you make the good ones and you have to make the tough ones too. If it helps any person, then the site will have done its job. Exactly. That's what Eric said. If one person can get some help out of it, it's a well done site. But basically, that's kind of like 2024 in a nutshell for us. Like I said, me and Tim Kask have several projects that we're going to be putting out. We do our own printing, of course. Everybody knows that. We're going to be offering printing to other people now. We already do some for certain other game companies. We're going to be doing. We're going to be a little bit more open about ourselves as a company. Like, I'm going to do a video tour of the workshop. We're going to get into showing people, how do you bind a book? You know, how do you put together, you know, you have all the parts of the hardcover book. How do you take that and how do you put it together and turn it into a complete product? I think that, you know, doing little series like that in 2024 where people can learn the process, they can learn how to do that. Just like we're going to be doing, you know, we're going to be doing our own version on YouTube via Patreon of master classes, where basically you can sign up and we're going to teach you something that we're very knowledgeable about. Like, as an example, we're going to go into basic game design 101, where how do you take an idea? I have this game idea and I want to convert it into a game. You know, all the processes involved. We're going to do a little bit of a, and I call them master classes because that's what they're not that we're masters, but they're teaching, you know, teaching videos to where you can also learn about, you know, how do you lay a book out? What is the difference between, you know, InDesign for Adobe, as an example, which you can now get on a monthly fee instead of having to spend hundreds of dollars. You can, for like $25 a month, get the program from Adobe by subscription. How do you use InDesign to lay a product out? You know, it's intimidating looking. When you open up InDesign, you see all these buttons and everything, and you're like, oh, it's actually not as hard as you think. And what we want to do is we want to help you from the very basics, starting off as if, just like if we did not know what we were doing. How do you create a file? How do you begin formatting the page? What are margins? What do they mean by a gutter? You know, what is full bleed? You know, that type of stuff. RPG Grandma says, cool, tour video and production videos. Exactly. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to show people that there's a back end side of this. Yes, you see a lot of the cool stuff. You see the cool imagery of the product when it's done, or you see the snippets of what the page will look like or whatnot. But what is it like to make a hardcover book? What does the binding machine look like? How do you set it up? You know, that's the content we're going to start putting out in 2024. We're involved in a major project, the National Role Playing Gamers Museum. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get you into, you know, what is it like, you know, doing something like this. Our part is very small, but there's so much involved in it. And we want people along for the ride for it. RPG Grandma says, I miss complete programs you own forever. I'm sick. You know what? I used to be that way, RPG Grandma, but I'll tell you something. There's a positive to it in one way. You know, we all like me, I liked my disc. I own it. And Corel still does that. I do a lot of my design in Corel Draw. I love Corel. It's not the Corel of old. David Floor gives me shit a lot of it about it, but it's really high-end stuff now. But like, as an example, Adobe, and this is the reason why I like what Adobe's doing with the subscription. This is where it's good, is because, like, as an example, Adobe InDesign was a $700 product. You know, average small game designer, guys just getting in a gal or just getting in a hobby, you know, he or she can't, you know, well, maybe they could, but, you know, who wants to spend $700-800 and you get a couple of discs? What these subscription programs allow is, you know, you can sign up, and for $25 a month, you not only have the product, but it's updated constantly. So you're always getting the newest version behind the scenes being updated. And it allows people who have limited budgets to be able to utilize high-end, expensive programs like Adobe Photoshop and Adobe InDesign and such, and Illustrator. These are, you know, Illustrator, InDesign, and such, you know, the PDF Maker, you know, that Adobe uses. You know, these programs are hundreds, if not over $1,000 to get, and subscription allows them to be able to get it in more people's hands. So I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of subscription programs, but if the program is expensive in itself, like, I'll give you an example. Adobe, I love subscription programs, but like some of these people that are putting out like dungeon design programs and such, I disagree. Why do I got to subscribe to you monthly when I can just buy the program for $49.99? It's not like you update it weekly. It's not like it's an expensive program. Now I want my disc. Now I want my program. You know, to hell with the subscription program. Thaddeus says, yeah, keep it for 6 months until you're done, then turn off the sub and turn it back on. Exactly. That's what's really cool about it, you know. But also then, and to add to this, you know, there's a lot of times like someone will say, I want to learn InDesign, and they get into it and they find out this is just, let's just face it, everybody has their own level of learning. I know people that Photoshop is just such a nuanced, you know, intuitive tool form. They really flow right into it and learn it. And now people that absolutely struggle with the most basic part of it, and no matter how much they play with it and study it and how many videos they watch and how to, they can't learn the thing. That's where subscription helps, because you know, they can keep it for a month or two and just say, you know what, this is not for me, and they can step away and back off, you know. RPG Grandma says, true, I've owned $800 ones before. Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you what, you make a good point. $800 back in the 80s, me too. That's equivalent to $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 today. You know, that was a hell of a lot of money to put out. You know, I remember one of the first computers I bought for my own self, it had a 20 megabyte hard drive in it. 20 megabyte. And it was $1,500. And I was a baller, man. I had a 20 megabyte hard drive in my computer. Boy, I'll never fill that up. You know, yeah. So yeah, it technology changes. And I just think that subscriptions, let's face it, subscriptions is the way that it's going to be forever. More and more companies are going to go to it, because how many people and Thias made a comment be canceled, but how many people sign up for a $19.95 a month subscription that forget about it? And it just every month, $19.95, you know, rolls. Yeah, I know, RPG Grandma, we're getting old. You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking about back in the 80s. I mean, me and you're talking about shit that happened back before a lot of these people were even born. Yeah, exactly. So the thing is the whole thing with what we're doing with Wizard Tower is, you know, and there's another more fundamental, very important thing that I want to do here, and I want to apologize to people watching this video. I've made a mistake. And the mistake that I made with Wizard Tower Games is, and it wasn't done on purpose. It was done with good intent, is I made hard dates that things would be released, and I just could not meet them. And I could not meet them because I live behind if I'm not in my workshop, my wife will tell you, if I'm not in my workshop, I'm at my computer. And I work a lot of hours in the day. I mean, I'm up until 1 o'clock in the morning designing and doing if I'm not working in my shop. And I really want to start meeting my deadlines. So when I say a game is going to come out in January of 2024, I want that game to be out in 2024. And I haven't been doing that. And I've been wrong, because people depend upon that. And that's not cool. That's not right as a game company. And I apologize to people for not making my deadlines. RPG Grandma says, I do miss the laptop I had that swapped out hard drives and could be put in a safe. It was so cool. Yeah. My dad, when I was a kid, had a thing called the Osborne. His company bought it for him. And it was one of the world's first laptop computers. And the thing was the size of a freaking big ass suitcase, and had the fold down screen in front. It had a little 4-inch green screen, you know, green backlit screen, dual floppy drives. And at the time, the thing was like $2,500, which is like, I think it was like back in 1980, 81 when he bought it. So you're talking about something equivalent to like $4 or $5 grand these days. You know, so that's the thing with us. I want to start meeting the dates. I want a schedule that's realistic. You know, like I said, I'm working with people now, like me and Tom Verl from Tabletop Taproom. We're putting out a project. We're talking about another game project, which if it pans out, it's going to be a sci-fi RPG. That's going to be a heavily Star Frontiers theme to it. Don't worry, Watsy, if you're watching, not Star Frontiers or any of the IP, but it's going to be that flavor. You know, me and Vic got the game going, Cutthroats and Thieves. I've got some other bits and pieces going, like with David Floor. You know, I'm going to be working with David Floor on his RPG, and also Dave's going to be working with me on Zonk. So I'm trying to involve other people, because, and then of course, Tim Kask. I mean, I can't forget Tim Kask. I mean, and Tim is just a walking encyclopedia of gaming. I mean, I have never met anyone like him before, and I'm not kissing up to him. This is a fact about Tim. You get that man going. That man's ideas, just the stuff he can come out with that, and it's not like random ideas, are really good ideas. He can really make your game better no matter what you're doing. RPG Grandma says, when I called to make her that computer for parts, I couldn't believe it lasted so long. Yeah, back when things really lasted a long time. Yeah, my desktop computer is heavy, but I remember back in the day when, I mean, you could build some muscle building up by doing them. Alienware, Local 433 Gombe. Alienware, is that company even still around? I think wasn't that the company? Oh, I'm trying to think the company name. They had like cows as the logo, but Alienware came out. Alienware was a really good company. They specialize in gaming PCs. Oh my God, is he just? He's just a big knowledge, an encyclopedia of knowledge. Like, I'll give you an example. The other night I'm in my car and he gives me a call and we're talking just classes, game classes. And I mean, he just starts shooting off all this cool stuff about game classes and ideas. And I'm driving down the road going, damn it, how can I write this stuff down? Because it was just so good idea. But I was able, of course I can call him when I get home. But Thias says Alienware was brought up by Dell. Were they? Okay. And then Dell bought them. Yeah. Gateway, that was the cows. They're the ones that I bought my one computer that I had 16 megabyte of RAM. Oh man, I tell you what, that was another power computer of mine. I had 16 megabyte of RAM. And I remember when one of my friends found out about it, he's like, you got 16 mega RAM in your computer? Yeah. Yeah, impressive. Titus says, I wouldn't buy an Alienware these days. They have tons of issues with their firmware. It's really hard. I mean, I have, I don't know the brand I bought. This computer on my desk right now, I bought actually at Sam's Club. And I've had no problems with it. Matter of fact, I just put I put a 2 terabyte SSD in it. So I've got plenty, because I had a 500 gigabyte hard drive with a 1 terabyte SSD, but the type files I use are so heavy. I bought a 2 terabyte SSD and stuck in. So I got 3.5 terabyte right now in the computer. So it'll last me a while. It's got 32 gig of RAM in it. So, yeah, my nephew Christopher makes PCs for a living now. That's what he does. So, and the technology's there. You can use, make your own, get exactly what you want. I agree. Let's see, a 286 with 2 megabytes, 20 megabyte hard drive. They were killers back then, weren't they? Those computers, man. I mean, the 20 meg hard drive. I'm not joking. I remember people asking me, "You'll never fill that up, man. 20 megabyte hard drive. Why are you going so big?" Type thing. And you're like going, 20 megabyte. Now you're talking about. I'm seeing backup drives now. In fact, when I was looking for my 2 terabyte SSD, I seen a backup drive. It was like a 14 terabyte backup. Wish I knew that when I had my publishing company. I would have bought one of those 12 or 14 terabyte backup drives for the main drive for the business. But we've been on now for an hour and 15 minutes, so I'm going to pretty much cut this off. I appreciate everybody coming in and talking. I'm noticing that my videos are getting more and more people coming in. Please, if you would do me a favor, if you have not already subscribed, if you hit that subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to get my subscribe count up, of course. Again, one of the things, if you do subscribe, you're going to see that's going to help you a lot when it comes to this video channel will be for 2024. You're going to start seeing a lot of how-tos. You're going to be seeing a lot of back-end how things are done. I really want to take people along for the ride. I want it to be almost like you're an assistant and you're experiencing about how to do things. Because I think that if you understand how something is made, it gives you a better appreciation of what you hold in your hand. Because we're small. I mean, we're not some big Chinese conglomerate company that can pump out 10,000 units in an hour. So a lot of handcrafting goes into things. When you have it in your hand, you know it. So yep, you everyone take care. So this is Don, Wizard Tower Games. Again, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for tuning in. You know what? I'll see you guys next year in 2024. It's going to be a new year when we do it. Please, this weekend, definitely on Sunday, New Year's Eve, me and my wife are going to be on, along with Tom Vrolt and his wife, with Eric and Rach Tenkar and some other people, I imagine, for the Gamers Health end of year special. We've been invited to that special event. So if I don't see anybody on here before then, you know what, everybody, thank you. Again, thank you for tuning in, for talking. And next Tuesday, we will be in 2024, and we'll see you all then. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a safe, most of all, New Year.